On Sunday, Spanish publication Sport broke the story that Joan Laporta, Barcelona's chairman, had apparently rejected what he himself described as a very tempting offer from Arsenal for one of Barcelona's star players. Nacional followed it up the next day, confirming the story and saying that he was still open to negotiating with Arsenal for this star player. So who is the player and how likely is this to be true? This transfer window has been one of contrasts, right? So on the one hand, we've had the endless saga of Declan Rice and Jurriën Timber, who seemed to take an age to sign after everybody knew they were coming. By contrast, we had Kai Havertz, who just seemed to happen in a couple of days and no one had seen it coming and it was totally unexpected. Could say the same about David Raya in the last few days. This one, though, would be much more like the Kai Havertz and David Raya. I'm talking about 20-year-old Ansu Fati, who is one of Barcelona's youngest ever superstars. He arrived at the Catalan club at the age of 10 in 2012. His breakthrough season was season 19 to 20, where he came on in 24 games with 11 starts, scored 7 goals, and that year was a particularly gloomy one for Barcelona. They sacked Valverde. It was in fact their first season without a trophy since 2008. But in all of that gloom, the one bright shining spark was Ansu Fati, left-sided forward who could dribble, could pass and could score goals. Unfortunately for Ansu, in the same his breakout season, he actually picked up a knee injury to the meniscus. He tore the meniscus in a game. He was sent to Ramon Cugat, who's one of the best orthopaedic surgeons in the world. He's dealt with loads of top-level footballers. And he stayed in that facility for 10 days, doing 1 session a day in recuperation, but then was discharged to go back to Barcelona. And a few weeks later, the doctor received a call from Ansu Fati saying that the knee had become inflamed again. It turns out that, or it is alleged that when he went back to Barcelona, he was doing 2 sessions a day rather than the recommended 1, and that had caused the stress. He then had to have a further 3 operations on this knee over the next 6 months. And when he came back scoring and lit up the Camp Nou all over again. Unfortunately, he then pulled up with a hamstring to the other leg. And what seems to have happened is that he spent so much time injured, he'd overcompensated. And so had a stop-start season then again. Now, last season, he found his way kind of blocked by Ousmane Dembele and Rafinha. But he did play. He played 36 games. Only came on for 12 starts, though. And that led to Ansu Fati's father coming out in March of this year complaining about the number of minutes. Now, look, we all know Barcelona are in financial trouble and have to move players on. They've just been absolutely rinsed for the Ousmane Dembele deal, getting only 25 million of that 50 million fee, the other half going to Ousmane Dembele. They are apparently really keen to bring Bernardo Silva in, but Man City are staying firm to around 85 million valuation. And so Barcelona is certainly a club that are looking to offload players. Last season, though, found his way blocked by Rafinha and Ousmane Dembele, and that's kind of limited his game time. When talking about it, though, Xavi said, Ansu is a footballer that I really like, and I've given him many chances, and he's taken advantage of them on many occasions, and he has helped us a lot. And it's evident that he comes out of a very difficult situation as a footballer, which is injury, then injury, and injury, and injury. He has to have continuity in training as well as in matches, and from there we will decide. This is Barcelona. This is not a charity. Now, I'm paraphrasing the last bit because he was really talking about how he couldn't promise any player at Barcelona that they would play because, after all, it's Barcelona. You have to earn your shirt, right? Ansu Fati's father complained about the lack of minutes that Fati was getting, and everything seems like it was building towards Ansu Fati wanting away. So you can kind of see where this story is coming from. You've got a club that really need the money. They have a player they really want to get, and they have a young player on their books who should be worth some money. Now, just how much money Arsenal offered for all they did offer any money is not made clear. But the fact that Laporta talks about it as a very tempting offer, but not one that he bit their hand off for. I would put it at around the £50 million mark, and that's just wild conjecture. But it's transfer season. That's what we do. It is worth remembering that if the reports are to be believed, Manchester United offered £130 million for Ansu Fati in 2021. So he has been that highly sought after, and he has been that highly regarded. And the fact they turned down that kind of money may influence how much money they hope to get for him now. I don't think that the Catalan faithful want to see him go, but I do think that they would put up with it if it meant they could bring Silva the other way. For me, the questions here around Arsenal are, how much would we have offered? If you look at this like he may be on the road to recovery once he gets back into the flow of playing. Since his injury, his dribbling has been affected, but his finishing has improved. So he might be morphing more into an out-and-out goal-scoring machine. I think that he has potential there. It could be a sort of Thierry Henry story. But what's interesting about this is that there is a risk being taken on a player who has been injured for this long. This is an absolutely key type of player that a manager could bring in and really turn into the next global superstar with the right support and do it much more cheaply than Mbappe, that's for sure. Ansu Fati does present a risk. It does present a risk, and irritatingly enough, for a player of his skill, he's not really right-sided, so he would typically play where Martinelli currently plays, where Trossard could play if Martinelli didn't play there, if Emil Smith-Rowe could play with, we're covered in that area. Jesus drifts that way. I made my point, I'm labouring it. But Ansu Fati is a left-sided player. Makes more sense if you look at it this way, I think. If we aren't necessarily sure about Eddie Nketiah, and he didn't play him in the Charity Shield, Kai Havertz is a good false nine, but not an out-and-out. And, look, Balogun looks ever more likely to leave. We should get at least 30 million for him. If it's just throwing another 30 million on and upgrading following Balogun I think this could work, I think Ansu Fati is a better player than following Balogun, probably by about 30 or 40 million. So stumbling blocks here, not necessarily even from our side. I do think Edu and Arteta would look at this and see a player that they would dearly like to bring into the fold. As long as expectations weren't too high immediately. What's the big stumbling block? Well, and I'm not ruling it out, but Ansu Fati has come out and emphatically said he doesn't want to leave Barcelona. He's got unfinished business. He sees himself as very much somebody who can challenge for a position coming up. And with Ousmane Dembele out of the way and Rafinha possibly on the move, you could definitely see it. So to summarise, it does feel like there is a hint of truth by this, but my gut is telling me Barcelona are leaking to try and drum up some interest, to let it be known that they are open to negotiate. It doesn't need to be Arsenal. I'm sure there are other teams out there that come in with a sizable bid. And if that happens, perhaps the team in question can turn him and make him change his mind about staying. Certainly, he has a great relationship with the fans. Certainly, he has a great relationship with the fans. Not sure that him and Xavi are on the same page yet. Arsenal does seem a bit like the kind of business we do. Although, is this just another Bitello? Or are we just being used? Everyone knows that we're out there spending money. Everybody knows we're acting decisively. We've got a young manager with a process. Look, there's a lot of people going to be linked with us. I saw one of the broadsheets linking Mbappe to Arsenal again on a season-long loan. I would love to see Ansu Fati come to the club. I think he is a really exciting player. I would take the risk on him not being injured. He's still so young. Definitely be the sort of player that I would love to see come on as an impact sub, which is what he was doing in La Liga to quite good effect last season. Love to hear what you think about this one. Is Ansu Fati going to be wearing an Arsenal shirt next season? Or is it just more pointless transfer rumory? Let me know in the comments what you think. Till I see you again, be lucky. Lots of love.